enunciate your words.
How do you guys want to start it?
However you want, Caleb.
Yeah, because you're the one that's.
Well, what's our budget?
What
That's
the fuck? You better cork at me.
What actually happened there was my teeth were so powerful that it flipped it out. They all like to suck their cock and I go back.
He's had a lot of coffee today.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Welcome to the podcast. Over on my right is Scotty.
Hello.
And over on my left is Caleb.
Hi.
What? Because you didn't actually see this movie.
I didn't see the Mule, no.
Which was good for you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Good for you. But you did have some questions.
I was intrigued. I did see the trailers in the months leading up to the Mule.
Uh-huh.
I was interested enough to try and see it. Didn't work out. But I have you two lovely people to tell me all about it.
Yay.
Yeah.
So initial reactions. Positive, negative,
Scotty, take us away.
My initial reaction was, before mocking in, like, why aren't we seeing Green Room? It's like,
okay.
hang on a second.
Yeah, there's another movie that came out this week.
Yeah.
Several weeks ago.
Oh, well,
Okay,
a couple of
right.
weeks ago, yeah.
It's like Cinema Times checking them out. It's like, hang on a sec. Why are we watching this one again?
Yeah, I didn't even know it was actually out in cinemas. That was my bad. I wish we were reviewing Green Room too. So
Okay.
I'm
The
sorry,
trailer
guys.
made it look interesting enough.
I didn't see the trailer actually before I
Okay.
walked in. I had not seen anything except for maybe the poster on like Facebook or something. And saw the cast and I was like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper. Lawrence Fishburne was in it as well.
Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia.
Bit of great cast.
Yeah, decent cast for
Guess
the
who
most
plays
part.
Clint Eastwood's daughter?
Who?
Clint Eastwood's daughter.
Plot twist.
I know.
They're really
Yeah.
pushing the envelope with that. Aren't they?
Yeah.
Casting decisions are amazing.
It is a family affair. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I have respect for
Gran Torino.
Clint Eastwood in terms of his previous movies.
He's done some good movies.
Yeah, he's done some solid films.
And he's kind of like a larger than life figure
He is.
already.
Yeah, he is a mythological character from the Western,
Spaghetti Western times.
spaghetti Western times. He really popularized it before it has obviously died off as a genre. But yeah, going in, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was kind of like, okay, this could be really good.
I was not optimistic. It's weird. Since Gran Torino, I don't think he's made a really good movie. Like American Sniper was okay, in my opinion. It wasn't fantastic, but everything else he's made since then has been lackluster at best.
Yeah, like he did. Was it Jersey
Boys?
Jersey Boys was another one that I didn't see.
I didn't see it, but I heard the reviews.
Yeah.
I was like, not gonna, no.
And there's a few others. Like yeah.
So I think he did, like last year, there was a couple, real life story where some people saved a train from terrorists, and then he used the real people from the actual event to remake it or something like that.
What?
And apparently it was shit.
What movie is? I've never heard of this
I'm trying to
movie.
remember what it's called.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I think it's Clint Eastwood. That's the
Because
thing.
he seems to be the type of director that loves to get his hands dirty in what is considered to be real. You know what I mean? Like reality and what's going on in the real world.
Two words that come to mind are rough and gritty.
Yeah.
You'd love to associate those with him.
Gran Torino. I mean, his voice is gravelly and
I mean,
grumpy.
he's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's Clint Eastwood playing
It's
a
in the
Clint
persona.
Eastwood type.
Yes. And I think, are we going to start the deep dive?
Do we want to start the deep dive? Are you done? Do you have any more questions on the surface?
Yeah, I'm good to dive straight
All
into
right,
it.
let's go through deep dive.
You've locked yourself in now.
Yeah, I have to do that.
Put yourself in a box. You got to do that every single time.
Gotta
now.
commit to it. Oh, what have I done? Oh.
What have you done now?
Anyway,
Okay,
deep dive.
great. How was the acting?
So there
You go.
there are problems with almost every single person in terms of acting in this movie.
Yeah, I make it a habit when I do walk into the cinema or when I'm sitting there to watch a movie, you never blame the actors for their performances. Like some actors you can on certain levels, but once you hit Hollywood level, all of those actors are at a certain level where, it's not reliant on them to make a bad performance. It's on the director and how they direct those actors or the script and how that script forms on set. Because a director is supposed to be there to funnel all of the creative energy of the cast and crew towards one goal. And if he can't or she can't accomplish that, it's not the actor's fault that has fallen through. It's the director for not stepping up and being in control.
Right. And the go-to example of that would be Nicolas Cage.
Yes. Actually a great example of a fantastic actor who relies so much on a good director to really bring his performances to life.
And funnily enough, in this movie, even Clint Eastwood wants someone directing him. That's what I got out of this movie.
Yeah. He did seem very lost. There are quite a few scenes where almost the entire script felt like it was thrown out the window in favor of ad-lib dialogue and, a lot of, like, Clint Eastwood just going,
every time you see someone for the first scene in their movie, they feel like they don't quite know what tone they're supposed to be giving.
Yeah.
What exactly are we supposed to do? And that includes Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
In the very first scene of this movie, he doesn't know exactly what he's meant to be doing yet.
So for context, the first scene is we're set up to believe that he is a flower salesman?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
A botanist?
A botanist or something like that. Anyway, he's a traveling botanist, and it's a very against type character for Clint to play at first, because he's very happy, he's very jovial, he's very, like, almost innocent in a way, which is odd. And he's walking around this showroom where people have come together to show off their plants and all this other stuff, and he's going around shaking everyone's hands. And then and then we get to the crux of what this movie really, I feel, is really about. He stops at this table where this guy is selling plants online. So he's advertising his online website and saying, you can just go here and pay $2.99 and it'll get shipped right to your door. And Clint Eastwood is like, internet. And he moves past that. And then pretty much for the rest of the film, whenever mobile phones are brought up, internet's brought up, or anything like aimed at anything below the age of 45, he gets pissed off at. And it's weird.
It is. Although there are plot points involving those things.
But there are,
I think we should mention the demographic we saw this film with.
Yes.
In my cinema, apart from one person who looked like he was in his late 30s, early 40s, everyone was 60 plus.
Yeah, it was the same in the cinema, because we went to different cinemas to see this film. It was the same in mine as well. There was a lot of old ladies with walkers and all this other stuff.
Any walkers? They were all fit and healthy at my one.
Oh, really?
I think that's just a demographic as well.
I mean, this movie was.
Are you knocking my the demographic?
Yes.
How dare you?
You're welcome.
You ageist. Oh, yeah. And that's another thing with this film, is it does come across a bit ageist in those references and stuff like that.
Okay, so it is directed by an 80-year-old man.
It is.
I'm happy to be corrected on that.
And he's playing a 90-year-old.
Right.
Yeah. Which leads us to another thing that I think we'll get into later. But along those lines, like, we take a look at Gran Torino, who like, he's in his 70s, I believe, when he directed that. But that still has relevance to people that aren't in his age group. You know what I mean? Like, it's pushing boundaries of that, and it's very inclusive.
In my opinion, Gran Torino is a film ultimately about community.
Yes.
And your role in community. Whereas this film is meant to be about how one acts, is supposed to act or position your family in your life, which never shows how to position your family in your life.
It never focuses on what the film is trying to be about.
It just preaches it instead.
Yeah, it's very it's very shallow. It never commits to its ideas, which is a bit of a shame.
So we're going to take a sidebar right now.
Yes.
And I'm going to evaluate what I've learned so far about the film.
Yes, tell us.
It is we want to feel sorry for Clint Eastwood, because the internet, when you buy your drugs online, it's going to put all those mules out of business. And how are 90-year-old men going to support their families, which are estranged?
Yeah, well,
is that the crux of it?
The opening plot is he was a flower seller, and then the internet, like the plot you point out about this guy, it's actually a hint. His next thing is 17 years later, he's out of business because of the internet.
10 years later. 10 years later.
Oh, yes, 10 years later.
Because it was 2007 to 2017.
That's right.
10 years later,
which is weird.
The internet has pretty much dug his business into an early grave, and he is now homeless and jobless, and he's going. His granddaughter is getting married.
That's the first weird plot point.
That is so
10 years
weird.
ago, his daughter got married. 10 years later, his granddaughter is getting married.
And one of the weird parts about this is
Caleb, that's exactly right.
When we go to like, whatever, she can get married young if she wants. She's getting married, and so he goes to the engagement party, and then there's a guy there at the engagement party who we still don't know his name by the end of the film. He goes, hey, like he's stereotypical Spanish Mexican
I guess
person typecast. He goes up to it, like he gets into Clint Eastwood gets into a fight with his family who arrive pretty much at the same time. And
we should point out, we should make the point. He has been a bad family member his entire life.
Yes,
he's missed like his daughter's entire life basically. Every time
like the reason why we saw her wedding earlier in the 10 years earlier scene is because he's not going to it.
He's missing it.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even a drug mule.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
That's not what tore the family apart. He's just an asshole.
He's just a dick. Yeah,
he's just an
exactly.
Idiot.
Yeah, he's just an idiot. Right. And so we flash forward, and he's at the thing, and he gets into a fight with his own family. His daughter shows up, and she's like, I can't be here with you, and which is understandable. She walks away, and then he leaves as well, and then chasing after him is this Mexican dude who's like a friend of his granddaughters or something.
No, he's like he knows one of the bridesmaids.
He knows one of the bridesmaids.
It's such a weird connection.
And this is the thing where they don't commit to it. There's a lot of exposition where it's just it's meaningless.
Oh yeah, no, it's like we'll shove this in so the plot will make sense in the future.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things.
Yeah, it just didn't work. This guy remains nameless, and so he goes up to the old man. And he's like, "Hey man, I hear you're looking for a job." And
that's a terrible impression.
That's a terrible impression, but it's a terrible line. Like but that's what that character is. It's just terrible. And Clint Eastwood hadn't even told anyone about his job situation or anything like that. And this kid just walks up to him and says, "Yeah, I hear you're looking for a job. Well, I got some friends that could help you out," and gives him like this business card to call. And so he obviously calls it. And then he from then we see him delivering drugs for the cartel.
He meets the cartel. And how do you think an 90-year-old would get on with the cartel? Would he be scared? Would he be... They're just best buddies instantly. That's basically how it goes.
Yeah. So,
he and the cartel like, hey dude, how you doing?
It was kind of like the writer decided, initial reactions, people are going to think that they're not going to get along and they're going to threaten each other and they're going to get into a fight. No, we're going to subvert that and we're going to be all cool and edgy by, they're going to be friends right off the bat. They're going to like really get each other. And
what's weird though is it almost works. It just doesn't quite work. And for the first half of that relationship, it's kind of like, oh, this is nice. They're kind of taking him under their wing. They're kind of like looking after him. It's his first family that he's had pretty much his whole life. Is like these guys are actually looking after him. And then they kind of just dismiss that idea and sweep it under the rug like it didn't exist.
See, that sounded interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, I would have, coming to think of it, that's the first time I actually thought of that in that way, because that's what they were going for.
No, so the first half an hour is this muddle of a movie where it's not exactly certain what it is.
Yeah.
And when the cartel is introduced, it's like, okay, this is what the movie is. So it's like there is this ease of, okay, the movie knows what it is now. Plus with these plot points, it's like, oh, this is comfortable.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense when you think about it later, but it starts to be interesting. It's like, okay, the movie has us engaged, not to an extent where we're completely invested, but at least, okay, the movie has us a little bit.
Would it be fair to say that Clint Eastwood had a great idea about a movie with a 90-year-old drug mule and then wanted to construct the rest of the plot?
It's very constructed.
Well, this wasn't actually written by Clint Eastwood. It was written... Who was it? It was written by somebody else. I've never recognized his name. I don't know what he's directed or written previously or anything like that. But it's definitely not a Clint Eastwood script. It's just Clint Eastwood directing and starring in it.
He felt confident enough in it to take it on completely and to do the project himself.
This is a kind of friend of a family kind of thing where he's just like, oh, you got a script, kid? I'll make you a star. Or I don't know, like a favor, or I don't know. I'm not gonna
Nick Schenk.
Sorry?
Nick Schenk is the writer.
Nick Schenk. What did he do previously? Has he done anything? Because I don't recognize that name.
No, he did Gran Torino.
He did Gran Torino.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
From Gran Torino to this, that's wow.
So he has won an Academy Award.
Wow.
Oh no, he's just won. That was the National Award Review.
Nominated.
Yeah, nominated.
Okay. So that's really interesting. I
feel really bad.
Clint Eastwood, I feel like he knows that he's old.
Yes.
He's not.
He's
going
having
to
fun.
try and do a vanity
he
project.
He has fun in this. He
John
likes
Wick
to
type.
dance with women in this.
Oh, let's talk about that.
There is an extended scene in this movie. Well, and by
there are several scenes in this film where Clint Eastwood seemingly has threesome after threesome with women who are like over 50 years younger than him.
And obviously they're enjoying it.
I did hear someone describe this movie as, that's the movie where he has 2 threesomes.
Yes.
It's not.
What's weird though is the first time you see the two ladies leaving his room, but you've seen him dancing a lot with women, so you just assume that he's been.
But then they leave the next morning. Like we have a time jump where we go to the next morning and they leave his hotel room with their shoes in hand.
The purpose of it to say, look at how low and deplorable he's become, or look at how womanizing and cool he is.
It's the last one. It feels like it's the last one. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they definitely show women to be accessories in this film. Like even in his relationships to his family, they're utilized as anchors to a plot rather than actual characters.
Yeah, that his family feel like plot points more than characters.
Yeah,
that's true.
Are they going for an almost Breaking Bad type deal here?
It's almost like someone read the Wikipedia for Breaking Bad and decided, let's utilize some of these plot points in ours.
Okay.
I think you can't do that in a
comes
movie
into his element when he becomes a mule? When he starts diving into that world, or is it just a thing that he does?
So it's
just
for monetary reasons. He's in trouble with insurance companies and stuff, so he needs money to pay off stuff, and that's how it starts.
Well, the first 2 trips that he does manages to pay off the house that he was living in that got repossessed by the bank, and also a new car that he bought because the old one died on him. And then after that, he makes some really weird choices for the money. So his little town, which we're not connected to in any way whatsoever. So this is the first time we're kind of hearing about the town that he lives in. His favorite bar/dance parlor or whatever you want to call it,
which is a really weird choice because they've already seen him in a hotel and stuff.
Yeah,
so it could have been an earlier used.
We could have used we could have had that as the setup for the plant thing or whatever it was. But anyway, we see this, and his favorite joint is going under, so he takes one more job to keep that afloat. So he pays them out and gives them all the money to keep them alive. And then someone at the party for him at the bar, someone shouts, like everyone's like, thank you to Clint Eastwood's character for keeping us afloat and giving us all this money. And then someone in the corner shouts out, hey, what about giving money to the old ice rink down the road? And Clint Eastwood looks at him like, I could do that. And then he goes on another trip. So we're built up to believe that all of the reasons why he's doing that is not for any other reason than to keep like these insignificant places.
The thing is, it's for his own ego. I think that's how they're trying to position it.
They try to do that, but it doesn't. I don't buy it though.
No, neither do I.
Does he feel validated by this newfound community?
Maybe.
Were these people that he already knew and he already had?
It's clear that they're saying that, like, because it's all exposition again. We never see these relationships come to fruition, but we see all these exposition scenes, like he's talking to the bar owner, and the bar owner's like, well, we're closing down. There was a fire, and we can't afford to keep this place open. And Clint Eastwood is, and then they walk out, and the bar owner sees his car, and he goes, oh, that's a pretty sweet ride. If only someone could donate $21,000 to us, and we could keep this place open.
The lines are so on the nose.
It's not good. It's not good.
I think we should probably tell Caleb the basic plot, because it's not that complicated.
It isn't.
So we have a flashback at the start to he's ignoring his family and but successful. To jumpstart, the internet has crippled his business. He needs money. He tries to connect with his granddaughter. His family's not having it because he's let them down too many times in the past, and now they think he's just there for the money. He goes and gets money by becoming a mule.
Goes on a journey where he develops relationships within the cartel community, which are odd, weird things. Anyway, pushing past that, the cartel gets taken over by a new boss who threatens everybody and tries to kill everybody, which is also another weird choice.
Meanwhile, Bradley Cooper is DEA.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about Bradley Cooper or what's his name?
Let's continue with the plot though.
But yeah, Bradley Cooper gets introduced as the guy that's hunting down this cartel. And then we switch back to Clint Eastwood, who's going about his business and all this other stuff. And then his wife is sick with cancer, so he doesn't tell the cartel, and he goes to see his wife on her deathbed. She dies. He goes to the funeral. The cartel catches up with him and threatens him, saying, like, you should have told us about this. And he's like, what? My wife's dead, kind of thing. And then he's like, one more chance. I'll do one more thing. And the cartel's like,
forgiving.
They're weird. Well, they're not, because they threaten to kill him once he finishes the drop, the final drop. And then during this drop, while he's on the highway, he gets pulled over by Bradley Cooper and choppers and all this other stuff come out of nowhere, and suddenly
he reconnects with his family and goes to jail.
Yeah, reconnects with his family and goes to jail, and that's the end of the movie.
But it gets, as you could tell by Jordan in the middle there, the movie drags on a bit.
It's not just in the middle. Like, this film, for me, personally, I felt it went on for an hour too long. There was a lot of way too many characters that suddenly drop in and then drop out again, who seemingly have their own weight to the story, but then immediately removed because they're not sure what to do with them.
Should we talk about Julio?
Yes.
So Julio is... He's
the handler.
Yeah, he's one of these cartel bigwigs. Not the biggest bigwig, but he's one of these reasonable bigwigs.
I assumed he was like the son. No, he was like the adopted son of the main cartel boss.
So he's sent in to try and... Because they've got this mule, he's quite successful. He's done a pretty good job for them.
Yeah, the old guy's like... He takes his own way, so he's less conspicuous, and he's never had a ticket, or he's never been pulled over in his life, which they've mentioned so often in this movie.
Which is why he's the perfect mule, and we get it.
Yeah, we get it.
But so he's sent along to follow him and see if they can... how they can use him, maybe in a more direct manner. And at the first he actually has a character arc, almost.
Yeah, he does, almost, and then they cut it off at the end for no reason.
So at the start he's like, he's a bigwig gangster sort, and then he, through knowing the mule...
he comes into conflict with Clint Eastwood's character, because Clint Eastwood's character doesn't give a shit. Pretty much. Only thing he cares about is the money at this point. And this guy, Julio, is like, no, it has to be done my way. It's got to be my way. So he's very, like, he's a control freak.
The highway.
And so they go through this little butting heads thing. It's like, conflict. Okay, that's a good choice for conflict. Like, it's fairly basic, but decent choice. It keeps the plot moving. And then as we move on and a new boss overtakes the cartel, which, let's talk about Andy Garcia. Andy Garcia is the boss of the cartel prior to the takeover. And the way he gets killed is so comical. So throughout the movie, he's like doing the whole clay pigeon shooting thing with this golden gun.
That seems to be the only thing he does apart from party.
Yeah, it's the only thing he does. And he's doing this. And at the fight, like one of the last things, he's like, he does a perfect show. It's like he looks around to his cronies and he's like, he says something in Spanish. The subtitles aren't on at this point. And they're like they all give him a round of applause for shooting the clay thing. And then he prepares to shoot again and he goes, pull! And then we hear a gunshot. And then Andy Garcia topples over backwards in like almost slow motion. And then we realize, oh, he got shot. And it's interesting, actually, you're going to love this. The guy who shot him is one of the twins from Breaking Bad, one of the Mexico cartel twins from Breaking Bad. I swear it's him, but this is his only scene in the whole film. We never see him before this scene. We never see him after this scene.
I think he's in the background, but you can't really tell. I think they've just... Anyone who's ever played a gangster role in anything, I mean, a Mexican cartel role, is somehow enrolled. There's so many different characters.
So many.
Like, pointlessly. Like, they're just there in the background. And not that they give bad performances.
No.
Right? It's just confusing because there's never a consistency on who this person is and why they're there.
And there's no focus on what their role is.
So back to Julio.
Yes.
So he's had this relationship where he's basically come round to the idea that he needs to live life for himself.
But the way they do it is they try to explore this through almost like Clint Eastwood is trying to make up for his crappy attitude towards his real family by putting his wisdom into this Julio character. And they don't commit to it. Again, they don't fully commit to that.
It's weird. It's like this film is too long and yet there's not enough time on this plot.
Yeah.
There's this fantastic scene where they go to get, well, not fantastic, it should be fantastic, but it falls flat a bit, where they go to get they go out the way to get a pork pulled sandwich, which is apparently the best pulled pork sandwich in the entire world. Well,
because he's been on, Clint Eastwood's been on the road, he knows these stops and all this other stuff, so he takes them specifically to one of his favorite stops where he, it's like the cafe on the side of the highway kind of thing. And they go in, they have this pulled pork sandwich, and then this is another weird thing. It doesn't know what kind of racism it wants to talk about or how to talk about it, because during the time where they're sitting and waiting for Clint Eastwood to bring the food back, all of these white people around them are just like staring them off like, oh, they're bad people kind of thing. But they never really acknowledge that. They never talk about it. They never say...
Or are they looking at them because they look like...
gangsters? It's not really clear, because when he comes back, I think they do mention it. They say, oh, these people are looking at us kind of thing. And Clint Eastwood just kind of brushes it off.
No, he says a really racist bad joke. That's what happens. I can't even remember it. But
I can't remember it either. But yeah, it's a really bad racist joke. And then on the way out of this stop, they're about to get in the car, and suddenly, policeman appears and puts his hand on the door, which is like, I was reminded of The Walking Dead. How zombies are silent until they're right in your face, kind of thing. That's what it felt like. It was like almost like a jump scare kind of thing, which is a weird choice again.
It was like a jump cut.
Anyway, this cop comes in, and you can tell under the surface, okay, the reason why they're doing it is because this is a racist cop, I guess. Again, they don't really commit to it at all.
Or is he racist? Or is he just generally worried about these two suspicious-looking Mexicans?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think if they were trying to make a statement on that, the response would have been more focused.
Yeah.
Instead of blasé like this.
Oh, and Clint Eastwood's the hero of the scene, of course.
Yeah, because, a white savior narrative is important in this film. And it is important in this film, I feel.
Let's talk about the other racist scene. So he's driving along and he sees a car is stopped at the side of the road. He's got his handler behind him as well. This African-American family is stopped and they've got a flat tire. So he stops to help this African-American family out. And we have intercut Julio back in the other car, which have been they've been tailing him, and they're like, it's a weird ad-lib scene, in those amateur student films where they have those cutaways to other characters that are supposed to be in the scene, but they're kind of watching from the side. Like, what's he doing? Why is he doing? I told him not to do that. And it was so weird. And they have these cutaways, and then we go back to the main scene where he's like, there's the African-American father of this family is on a hill with his phone trying to get signal. And his excuse is he's trying to look up instructions on how to change a flat tire, which again I don't buy. It's not that hard to change a flat tire even if you haven't been taught what you're doing. And then he mentions, my daddy never told me how to change a flat, so I'm looking for instructions. And he's like, I don't want to say it. You go, Scotty. I don't want to say it. Oh, I'm just doing the good thing of helping out my fellow Negroes, something like that.
Yeah, and they look at him and they're like, so we don't like to be called that. We it's black or African American, and then they all three of them kind of just laugh it off because he's a crazy old white man. It was so tone deaf, and so racist. And,
what's funny though is there's another scene which it almost works with the Dyke scene. The Dykes on
that actually, I would have wanted to see the Dykes on bikes come back into this movie at some point because their interaction was actually really good.
So there's a lesbian motorcycle gang that's driving around, and he stops and he says
they're having trouble with one of their bikes.
And he says, "Sonny, I think it's a certain problem," because he knows it straight away.
He knows bikes,
but it's not a dude, it's a chick, and they're all lesbians, of course. So there's a Dykes
and then they
bikes.
have to introduce themselves. No, dude, we're Dykes on bikes. And he's like, oh.
And then
and then they fix the bike, and she's like, thanks, old man. And he's like, okay, Dykes. And then he walks off. And it's funny. It is actually works.
Funny. It was actually
because
funny.
it's not judgmental. It's not sexist. It's not racist.
But it also works on his because this is a motorcycle gang. Yeah. The fact that he's doing this on the motorcycle gang, that's actually what makes it funny. It's not the inappropriate wording. It's the fact that it's an inappropriate wording to this tough group.
And also, as a character, Clint Eastwood doesn't know any better, so he's kind of just going with the flow. But he's not being being
also, they call
racist.
Themselves Dykes first.
Exactly.
So there's this. He doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know what the word means.
Yeah, and it's kind of like they introduced what what Clint Eastwood can and can't say to them, and so he follows their lead and goes, okay, this is what I'm allowed to say. Whereas before, he kind of just takes precedence and in that conversation between the African American family, he's like, no, I'm the boss in this conversation. I dictate what can and can't be said, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So the movie needs to pick a direction.
Yes.
Sounds very directionless.
So I actually think what happened is it's based on a article about a 90-year-old mule. And I think, okay, here's an idea for a 90-year-old mule. And they were like, hang on a sec, that doesn't quite have enough to make a film on. So then they constructed things to put on top of this movie to make it more complete.
Of course, he's got to have a strained relationship with his family.
Yeah.
He's got to be an old man adapting to modern times.
Yes.
Maybe that and everything.
But probably the 90-year-old real mule was actually pretty good with technology. Who knows?
Yeah, he could have been a really good family man. I think that would have been a more interesting film is watching him balance, you know, this illegal work life and his family life.
I mean, that's the nice thing about American Gangster is how good he is with his family.
Yeah.
And the construction of what's going on in his work life, how it affects his family, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
So the basic plot sounds really simple.
It is.
And it just sounds like a whole string of things just kind of happen in between.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is also a scene at the Waffle House, which is maybe the best scene. So he runs into Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper they have a rat.
Can we talk about Bradley Cooper's arc for a second before we get to the Waffle House? Because I think we do need to say it. Bradley Cooper comes in as a special agent to the DEA in that area. As soon as Bradley Cooper stepped on the screen for the first time, I audibly heard at least 10 to 15 women in the audience go, and it was weird because his name's on the poster, and
Is that the 50 Shades of Grey?
I'm sure he was in the trailer. I've not seen the trailer.
What do you mean,
can probably
women?
answer that, huh?
What do you mean women? I would have done that. It's Bradley Cooper. Come on.
I just thought that was hilarious. Like, I give props to Bradley Cooper. He's a fantastic actor, and he's definitely.
I think with After American Sniper and with The Star Is Born, he's become a sweetheart to many
over 60s.
Well, I think it's just
There wasn't a stage where he wasn't a sweetheart.
no.
there isn't. Yeah,
He's always been a hunk.
even.
One of the best looking men in Hollywood.
I just feel like now he's become the kind of guy that grandmas just love to pinch on the cheeks whenever they see him. You know, like
I love that Bradley Cooper.
He's so cute. Anyway,
my grandson.
Bradley Cooper in this film, he's introduced as a transfer in the DEA office of that certain area. I'm not sure what area it is. It's never really talked about. But he comes in and
maybe.
Lawrence Fishburne is playing his new boss, and Lawrence Fishburne is like, you need to make a splash. We need arrests, and I know that you're not keen to be out here. So if you want to leave this place and move on, this is the only way you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's actually weird. It's like Bradley Cooper's character is like, I kind of wish I was just in the country somewhere. Don't really want to be here, but I'll do my best.
It's weird how weirdly expositionally honest some of these characters can be.
Yeah, that's
in these
exactly what it
scenes.
is.
But yeah, again, weird exposition.
Oh, so first of all, both of them, and then Michael Pena appears in the next scene, all have the this look on their face. It's like, what exactly film are we doing again? What exactly are we doing here?
Yeah, they're not really sure. And Michael Pena, I feel, is there because, in all of these, the Netflix cartel TV show has it, but they utilize it to better effect, where, it's a white cop teaming up with a local cop kind of thing, and, they're supposed to be a dynamic duo, but nothing really happens with that.
Have you ever seen Southland?
Yeah.
They die in Southland.
Yeah.
It's good. That's a really good. Is it a series? Yeah, it is a series. Because there's two of them. There's that one, and then there's another one that Michael Pena is in with Jake Gyllenhaal.
After Watch.
After Watch, which is basically almost the same thing. But great TV series and great film. Anyway, but yeah, way off track. Back to the maybe
emotional connections.
Yes, emotional connections.
Are there any?
Are there any?
There are emotional contrivances.
Yeah, there are connections, but they are also misplaced. I feel like they focus heavily on the relationship between Clint Eastwood and his dying wife in the final half an hour of this movie, and I don't feel that was the right relationship.
To me, there are two relationships that work, and they almost work. Julio and guard the mic from my voice. There's Julio and Clint Eastwood's character, which almost work. And there is...
I'm sorry,
can we get through a podcast without touching each other? Yeah.
For reference, we are touching each other on this podcast right now.
We're touching each other's hearts and minds.
Because we weren't touched in the movie.
At all.
So there's this relationship with Julio and Clint Eastwood where they're almost getting to know each other and seeing the world from each other's point of view. And then there's a scene at the Waffle House. So Bradley Cooper has a rat, which is how they're finding out about the cartel.
Well, no, hold on. For context, it's not a rat within the DEA. It's a rat within the cartel that they're using to gain information.
What's the difference?
Well, there's a huge difference. What are you talking? What's the difference?
That's a rat.
Have you seen? Never mind.
I'm still getting over the fact that I thought you were talking about he had a pet rat.
Yeah.
And
That's what I thought
I was
at first.
very interested.
Because he kept saying, we haven't
that.
even talked about the rat yet. And I was like, what rat? There was a pet rat here that I missed? Or
So they have a
going on?
pet rat who
mule.
is a Filipino who's working for the cartel.
That's right. He makes it a point to say he's Filipino because, again, this film
Cultural diversity.
cannot handle racial issues whatsoever.
It just sounds like they're championing diversity. Championing.
Champagning.
There we go. Yeah, so they're like, look at how diverse it is, and look at how old Clint Eastwood is, but he's still...
Anyway, they get a tip off that the Tata, which is Clint Eastwood's code name in the cartel, is staying at a hotel tonight, at a specific hotel. So they go to this hotel, but because he's Clint Eastwood, old guy, they don't realize that he's the guy, and they pick up someone else instead, who's only just he's just an idiot, really, who's bought some drugs, but doesn't have much on him.
Sorry,
What is Tata?
It's a Mexican word. So they call him, his nickname in the film is Tata. Clint Eastwood's nickname.
Yes.
And it's basically dad.
But
that's what
feminine
it means.
dad.
Dad. No, it's got two meanings. It's informal masculine noun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So padre,
There you
dad.
go.
It means dad.
There you go. Papa.
Papa. Which is a weird, again,
It sort of makes sense.
basic
Yeah, it
choice.
does.
Nothing special there. Nothing
Anyway, so
meaningful there.
they meet at this hotel, and then the next day after they've taken this other guy away, thinking they've completely missed, the tip-off mustn't have worked. Clint Eastwood goes to the Waffle House and talks to him, because he's already figured out that the other guy is working for the DEA, which is the anti-drugs people.
Yeah.
And they have a conversation about family, which is what the movie's meant to be about. It's pretending to be about.
We shift in and out of that topic quite a lot during this movie, though. And that's another thing that they end on, though. It's weird. The whole point of Clint Eastwood giving all of this wisdom, I guess he sees it, to the younger generation is because they're not good enough, and old people are more correct. And by the end of this film, Bradley Cooper's character, when he arrests him, they have this little conversation about Bradley Cooper's family, which we never get to see. It's only referenced in exposition. And Bradley Cooper says to Clint Eastwood, you're right. You're really right.
Well, the thing is, there's not much it's working on. So when they're talking earlier, it's like Clint Eastwood hears that Bradley Cooper's missed his wedding anniversary, and he's like, "Oh shit, I've heard many of those out of shit, so I'll be for my life," because he's just talking about,
again, poor choice of dialogue, because
dialogue.
anyone knows that if someone says, "Oh shit," crap out loud, they're looking for attention. You know what I mean? Like, they're begging to start up a conversation, which is a very odd choice. A very odd choice to start a scene.
Yeah, it is odd.
It doesn't fit with the character of Bradley Cooper's performance.
Oh no. I said, oh no.
Yeah, okay, continue, Caleb.
I just say we didn't get through the cast list.
That's
So
okay.
that's fine.
Well, we did mention...
That's fine. We've kept it simple.
We've
mentioned
Only a
most of
few
the major
characters, that's
cast.
fine.
It doesn't really matter.
Thank you for asking.
Well,
And checking on me.
should we talk about Diane Wiest then? Because
Yeah, Diane Wiest plays
poor Diane Wiest.
his ex-wife, who is dying of cancer, which we never find out that she's actually dying of cancer until the last 45 minutes of the movie. So it really doesn't have the emotional weight it could have.
No.
What I would have wanted, generically speaking, we could have had her dying of cancer within the first half an hour of the movie, and the reason why he's doing these runs is to keep her alive. That would have been way more interesting.
What's even weirder is there's a hint of an idea that if he'd known about it earlier, he might have been able to help with providing some money from his drug muling days.
But that's the thing. His family know that he's suddenly flush with cash from almost the first half hour. So it doesn't stand to reason why they wouldn't... Because she's very open with him. It's surprisingly open given their relationship breakdown. Yeah. They're talking about stuff all the time.
It's got to the stage where they're just like, you're a piece of shit. I'm just going to tell you, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Basically,
they're being honest with each other, which is a nice choice.
So was this based on a true story?
Vaguely.
Very vaguely.
Okay. Vaguely based on a true story, based on a news article based on a true story.
But let's talk about Diane Wiest's final performance in this film, the final scene where she's dying of cancer. And I'm sorry, again, I don't blame Diane for pulling out this performance.
Robot Chicken Darth Vader, that's what it is.
Well, yeah. Well, I felt she was trying to make an ASMR video on YouTube. She was making all these just noises throughout the scene, and she's like, every time she breathed, it was
Do in real life.
And it was just...
It was too, like, they do it in real life, but this was...
over the top.
This was hammy, yeah.
Over the top. And it felt like looking at Clint Eastwood's expressions during the scene, like we cut back to him, he actually sometimes looks confused at the performance that he's seeing in front of him. And again, not playing Diane. Not playing Diane. Not playing Diane. It's Clint Eastwood's fault that this is the performance she's given, because he's not, obviously not controlling the scene and not directing her to where he needs her to be for this scene. And it just doesn't work.
Okay. So he basically told people, I just wanted to be realistic. How people really behave, you know?
How you think people really behave.
And then just run with it.
Yeah, and then just cut it together. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we go ahead to the final scenes where he finally gets caught. Yep. And he goes to...
Which is sort of quite an anticlimax. They just have him, the road blocked off, and he just stops.
I'm okay with that.
No, I think that's a clever decision.
That's a good choice, especially considering the just
But at that stage, I kind of almost wanted there to be a ridiculous hammy shootout. And
again, this goes back to commitment to ideas and themes. Like, if they were committing to what they were saying they were committing to throughout the film, we probably would have gotten that ending, I feel, where it was over the top and
at the same time, earlier in this movie, when they had he goes to meet the cartel for the first time, like the head honchos, they have this party scene which goes on far too long and features a lot of
so many butt shots, so many ass shots of these young 18 to 24-year-old women who are obviously being paid to be there as hookers for this party. And again, going back to Clint Eastwood having 2 threesomes in this film. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What's funny is
just bad.
He's having this threesome, but at the start it's just there's a prostitute with him, and then the other one comes in. I feel sorry for the earlier one's like, what's wrong with her?
Oh, and he's got his shirt off, and everything is sagging. Just it looks like he's wearing a skin-colored sheet over his body. It's just. It's not right. And to add insult to injury, the hooker that comes into this room where, like, this other hooker is lying on top of Clint Eastwood by this stage, and this hooker comes into the room and says, "Oh, can I join? How about we turn the lights off?" And they switched the lights off.
And everyone's like, "Yes, please." I should have done that. Turn the damn
or you could have ended the scene, like, I don't know, 10 minutes earlier. I wanted,
all of these scenes were literally, it felt like Clint Eastwood was just like, I'm having the time of my life.
So are we meant to be disgusted by it? Are we meant to see?
Well, the thing is, it's funny.
The thing is, he's living the life, but let's
talk about his enjoying. He's having fun. Like, his character Earl obviously likes to dance, and there are earlier scenes where he's at his granddaughter's wedding, and later on when he's fixed up the this rodeo place, he's dancing with people, and he obviously likes this dancing thing, and that's why at the start of this party scene, he's dancing with the lady, and it's like, it's awkward but funny awkward.
Yeah, it's like old grandpa at a wedding, awkward dancing. Like,
and it's funny.
That's what it's funny. But then they take a turn for the sexual, and it just does not work. And then the rest of the film builds him up to be this pariah of ethics and morality by the end, weird. And it's like it's saying, you too can get away with being a drug mule.
If your family loves you.
If your family loves you by the end.
There is one funny scene that stands out, though, is that he's being bugged by his handler.
Oh, that's a great scene. I want to see more of that.
So he's singing along with a country song as he's driving.
So they're following him in the car behind, and so they're listening in on what he's saying and stuff within the cab of his car in their own car.
He's singing along.
And he's singing along to this old country song, and then the guy in the passenger seat in the other car that's trailing them starts humming along. And then they both start singing, and it's this great moment where, like, these 3 people in 2 separate cars are enjoying the same music along the same, like, long haul drive that they're going on. And it's probably one of the more genuine scenes in the whole movie, I feel.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just 3 guys just relaxing and taking it as they go.
It's very simple, and it tells a lot without doing too much.
Yeah.
So, which is the problem. It's the exact opposite of the rest of this movie. Where it tells too much and we don't get enough character.
Yeah.
Is the movie racist?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And the thing is, like, you can... I've heard some people try to excuse it as, he's just an old man living in a different age. But at the same time, like, you haven't been allowed to call people Negroes for, like, 30 years now.
It's one of two things. It's either Clint Eastwood has no idea, or Clint Eastwood is really clever and we don't get it.
It can't be the last one because the rest of the film undermines it.
Yeah.
Could it just be Clint Eastwood having fun because he thinks that the perception of him is an old man from a different time?
I think it's Gran Torino done wrong. That's what I think it is.
Is it Clint Eastwood trying to show that he has self-awareness and failing completely?
Yes.
Yes.
But he thinks that he has self-awareness?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's actually a quote by not Quentin Tarantino. Martin Scorsese, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Scorsese has said, I can't remember when he said it, but it was a couple of years ago. He said he fears the point where he gets too old to be relevant.
That's true.
And he says that
there was an interview after Silence.
That's right, it was, because he said, I don't want to be working if I can't connect to the audience, if I can't offer something new or interesting to an audience to be able to see or to identify with. I've lost my power as a director, and I feel like this movie is Quentin Tarantino finally losing.
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood.
Get it right.
Sorry, I apologize to Quentin Tarantino.
If Tarantino directed this movie, it'd be hilarious.
Yeah, it would.
Too.
Thanks.
Continue.
2 more strikes and I'm off the podcast.
But
I feel like it is Clint Eastwood finally coming. Like, I think he's finally lost his ability to be able to be relevant to an audience, which is sad because I love.
What's worse is I actually thought there are hints that he's still a good actor and he could still be in good stuff. In fact, I'd love to see him in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
I would actually. That
or
would be
Martin
something I'd love to
Scorsese
watch.
movie.
Yeah.
Or
I'd love to see that.
It just sounds like he can only be bothered to do something that he knows that he has total
control over.
Yeah.
But he didn't have. That's the problem. Is
No,
it felt like he
didn't.
was doing something beyond his reach. Like it felt like he didn't have control over what he wanted to do with this movie. Not that there were outside forces coming in at him, just that he had lost his ability to come to distinct conclusions on things.
Yeah, like it didn't feel like he had enough containment or parameters around his idea to say, okay, this is the line, I can't go further than that. Like in Gran Torino, it's set in a very small neighborhood. We don't go any further than that.
It's very self-contained.
It's very self-contained, whereas this film is literally just all over the place.
Yeah. This movie is brilliant. I just realized what it's all about.
What is it?
It's all to show that a 90-year-old person can be just as aimless and have no idea what he's doing as a 20-something-year-old in the modern day.
That is true.
I mean, if they actually had included a 20-something in the modern day era that was aimless, I would believe you. But
that's a funny point, is because in this movie, we are constantly seeing Earl be useless. And at the same time, we're constantly being told that young people need to... the exact opposite. It's weird. It has the preachy thing of the exact opposite, while the old people are still being... his main character.
It's literally like, you need to listen to your elders because we're smart. But at the same time, again, he's aimless. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it just...
and he's a bloody drug mule.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't, like, again, they're holding him up to this whole apex of being a morality center by the end of the film. Yet his background is anything but that.
So there was another scene that cracked me up. When he drops the truck off at his place, there's a guy who meets him. And one time he goes there, the guy's asleep, and he knocks. And the guy's like, crazy old fella. And it's a genuinely funny moment because it's just a believable, honest thing, which is rare in this movie, which is the problem.
But also, it goes against what they set up that character to be, because they said at the very beginning, you know, this person is going to come, he's going to put the money in your car, leave the keys, walk away for an hour, and then come back because we don't want you seeing him because you're not allowed to.
And yet they have a relationship.
But they have a relationship. It's weird. This film doesn't stick to its own rules.
Yeah. It doesn't.
And not for any good reason either. Like, for literally, we're not sure what to do, so let's just change the rules right now in the middle of the film.
So the film had a stallion of an idea, mixed it with some damn donkey ideas, which produced the mule.
Yes. Yeah. Well
That's
done.
what we're left with.
Well done. That's the soundbite for today. That's great. I love it.
I do what I do.
He did make an ass of it.
Okay. Well, so I guess we'll go. Anything else? Is that?
We don't want to talk about the mule any longer.
I don't want to either. So let's.
For a while.
Shall we wrap it up? And
Give it a
okay,
rating. Give it a rating.
Scotty, what would you rate it?
I think it's a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's mediocre, but at the same time, it has these moments where most mediocre movies don't even have moments.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. It has some great moments, and then the rest of the film is just waddling in crap.
Yeah.
And I would give it a 3 out of 10. To be honest,
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I would not, just because it exacerbates the stereotype of the sexist, racist old white man to a point where if an audience is watching and they're racist, they're going to be like, yeah, racism is okay.
And it doesn't turn it on its head in the way that Gran Torino does. In fact, it does the exact opposite, where it makes them more deplorable as opposed to understandable.
Yeah. And for that reason, like, I would have given it probably maybe a 5 for everything else, but...
exactly.
For that reason, for the racist, sexist crap that didn't need to be in this film, that supports it and all that other shit.
The emotional contrivances as well, the emotional scenes don't work,
Yeah.
which I think is what this movie needs. It needs to fulfill its emotional integrity, which it doesn't have.
Yeah. So that's us. That's our review of The Mule. Thank you so much for listening.
Cheers. We are Weird Movies.
We are Weird Movies.
The most important movie review show on the internet.
Please
.com.
like and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify.
Like leave subscribe.
As what?
You like subscribe, like leave subscribe.
For your own mental health, stay away.
Please, yes.
Don't subscribe, ban,
like,
block,
honestly.
do not share. All the good things.
No.
But if you want to discuss, if you like this movie, if you saw this movie and hated it or enjoyed some moments,
if you think racism is cool, let us know. We would love to hear from you.
And we'll call mental health line.
Yeah. Let us know what you're thinking about one viewer.
Yeah, that one viewer.
We appreciate your one view. We do.
Probably my wife.
That actually, it's probably you watching the video.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good one. Thanks a lot. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jordan.
I'm Scotty. We are We Movies.
See ya.